It was just amazing to me. We were always told about how to take care of our money, what to do with your money, how to earn your money, and how your money should take care of you. I remember him telling us that if you can, work for yourself. Because if you work hard for somebody else, they'll just give you more work to do. And I can also remember him telling us, how much is your money costing you? Who owns your time? If working more hours takes you away from your family, maybe it's just not worth it. Remember, this was the 50s, 60s, when you could do stuff like that. I
Deborah,
also remember, am I going too long?
excuse me. Well, it's been a little over 11 minutes, so I think it's about
Sorry,
time to say
I'm
thank you.
thank you
And
so much. I
you have
appreciate your time.
you have just wonderful stories and wonderful stories with a good point, a good moral, and I'd love to hear you more. But we have some other tellers, so maybe if we say this thing will go until 8:30, I don't mind if it goes longer personally. So if you or somebody else has stories to share after our last speaker, please stand by. I would love to listen for one. So thank you, Deborah. Thank you for Karen for inviting Deborah. And thank you, Deborah, being brave enough to tell the first time you joined us. Very good. Really appreciate it. Ed Lewis, you're up next. I'm going to say about Ed. Well, what can't you say about Ed? I mean, he's busy with the state storytelling. What do they call it? SAC commission.
Storytelling Association of California.
Oh, Storytelling Association of California. That's the SAC, and Ed has been a huge supporter of our Auburn Winter Storytelling Festival. He's got a lot of experience, which I don't have any, of working with children and telling for children, which he is delightful. He could teach lessons on that. And so thank you, Ed, for all you do for the genre, for California, for Northern California, for the Auburn group, for the Sacramento group. We appreciate the heck out of you. And Ed has something to say about follow your passion. Take it away, Ed.
All right. So Gunther Scholl was born in 1930 in southeastern Germany in an area called Silesia, and it was right next to the Polish border, and it used to be part of Poland. So during the Great Depression, he was up to 10 years of age before World War II started. Now he lived in a family of 10, like our previous teller, and they were poor farmers. They didn't know anything about politics. They weren't interested in war. They were just trying to survive. They lived in this big house. 1/3 of it was for the 10 children and the parents, and the other 2/3 were for the animals, the cows, the pigs, the sheep. And they barely had enough food to live on. Gunther told me about his job when he was 5 years old. He would have to get up at 4 in the morning and milk the cows. And he said the best thing for him after he milked the cows, he got to go out to where the manure piles were and put his feet in the manure piles and warm up because it was so cold for much of the year there. Now, of course, World War II came, and he was 10 years old at the time. His older brothers were enlisted into the army, and they headed off towards the Russian front. His father remained to work the farm, but everyone else, the girls and the younger kids like him, had to work in a munitions factory, making bullets and all kinds of weaponry. And every kid in there, including Gunther, came away from there with pockmarks on their face because of explosions that would happen while they were trying to work developing these munitions. Well, at the end of the war, when Germany was losing and the Russians were coming with the Polish folks who really hated the Germans, coming across into their farmland, Gunther and 3 of his sisters had to flee in the middle of the night because the artillery shells were coming down. And they fled on foot in the snow, 200 miles to Switzerland. They got into Switzerland, they met some relatives, and they ended up coming down to Brazil, where Gunther was raised. He had a nice childhood down there, but he always had this passion for adventure. So he went up the Amazon and he worked in a gold mine for a while and he made some good money. Throughout his youth, he had loved John Wayne. He had watched all the John Wayne movies and he wanted to be just like John Wayne. So with some money that he saved from his gold mining operations, he went about 2/3 of the way up the Amazon into the country of Colombia, a little town called Leticia, which was a border town right on the waterfront. And he staked out a piece of property and he followed his dream to become John Wayne. He built a saloon. He built a hotel. He developed a Wild West show and he started a tour company. And that's where I met him. And you heard about that from the last story I told, those of you who were here. So I'm just going to give a brief little synopsis of those who weren't there. I took a summer trip up the entire length of the Amazon River. And I was on this cargo ship and I'd heard about John Wayne. So I got off the boat in Leticia and I followed the jungle trail up to this open clearing where there was a saloon, the hitching post, a white stallion. He was dressed as John Wayne with his cavalry hat, his 6 guns, the Colt 45s that he twirled around. And he met myself and this other younger couple that had come along off the boat also. He took us into the saloon and it was just like my childhood dreams. A big, long 10-foot bar stools, huge mirror, animal heads all around the entire place. There were 5 poker tables next to the dance floor. There were 4 of them were with tourists from his tour group. And in the middle were 4 cowboys and a cowgirl. One of them was pretending to be Annie Oakley. They all had their rifles and guns. And they took us out for a Wild West show. We sat on the hay bales, watched riding demonstrations, shooting demonstrations. And I even challenged John Wayne to a shooting contest because they let us fire all the guns at targets. And I beat John Wayne in the rifle shooting contest. So I felt very good about that. Well, after the tourists were all gone, John said, I've got to go out to my other places that I take tourists. Now, because I go out there to check on them, see what they need. I bring them some supplies. And if you guys would like to come with us, come with me for a week. You can join me, pay me $10 a day, and that'll cover food costs. Great, fantastic. So we took the 3 miles across the Amazon River into Peru, the Peruvian side of the Amazon. Now, the Amazon River is not really that exciting. It's like the Mississippi. It's a huge, big river. But once you get in off the Amazon into these tributaries, it's an amazing experience. So the first place he took us was to Monkey Island. And he had a resort that he built with this beautiful timber with these open rooms that had hammocks in them. And the island was populated with monkeys. He took us through the jungle and the monkeys would be swinging from the trees up in the high canopies. At his resort, there were all kinds of macaws and parrots, and some of them were trained and others were just flying around. And there were just an amazing experience. Then he took us on a tributary back deep into the jungle. The first place we went to was a farm. It was a yarrow farm or taro farm. And if you don't know taro, it's like the root, kind of like a potato. And this couple that were in their 80s ran it. And they took us through the whole farm. We worked with them for the day. We camped out there for a couple nights. And then we went deeper into the Amazon. We came to this small community with these huts that were built up on stilts because it rained during the rainy season. And we got off the boat, and we're in the Spanish speaking side now. So, and I speak Spanish, so I could really communicate with these people. Got off the boat, and there were these guys fishing. And then right next to on the other side where all the kids were swimming. And I come over to the guys fishing, and I said, what are you fishing for? Piranhas. And I thought maybe I just didn't speak Spanish well enough. And they pull up this, they were just flipping them up like this. And Gunther, or John Wayne, took one of those piranhas, they're about this size. He took a knife and he stuck it in its teeth and went like this, and just razor sharp teeth. It was unbelievable. He said, there's kids swimming right there. Our piranhas are going to eat them. And, oh, come on, those are all wives' tales. Piranhas don't bother people. If you're bleeding, well, then you're gone. But the only time we worry about it is during the dry season, when we have to take our cattle through small dried up streams. We got to make sure that there's no piranhas in them, because then they're starving and they will go after anything. And you can go ahead and swim right there. And I went, no, I don't think that, I think piranhas might really have a scent and a flavor for a kind of gringo white meat like me. Well, we went further into the jungle. There were these amazing spider webs with these colorful spiders that had fangs on them. And I was walking along this trail deep in the jungle, and I saw these little sailboats coming right down, green sailboats coming right down the middle of the jungle. And I was just looking at them. And there's these huge black ants that have chewed off a leaf, and they've got the leaf, and they're just marching on down back to their place. I'm watching these, and all of a sudden, Gunther shoves me off the trail. I get up and go, what's going on? He said, shh. And I look, and this black and yellow ring snake comes right across the trail. That's the most poisonous snake in the jungle. You gotta watch where you're going. It's fascinating. He took us out to where they were building boats, and I mean, it was just an amazing experience. And he told me that, you know, for him, what he did in life was follow his passions. He knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to be John Wayne. So he became John Wayne. And I took those lessons, and I really followed what he said and made sure in my life that I took the kind of career that was going to be something that was passionate for me, that just like our previous teller said with her father, a work that you love, and you're gonna, if you follow those kinds of passions, you're probably gonna have a good life, and you're gonna enjoy what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. What a great story. Well told, as always. You do so well, but man, there was a lot in there. There was a lot of meat in there. There were a lot of, you had my imagination going, and then you tickled me with the sights and sounds that I'd never heard about before. And then you wrap it up with a great meaning, a great moral too. So that was really nice. I really enjoy that, Ed. Thank you for sharing that with us. Karen, you're going to be up next. And yeah, really, really well done, Ed. You're as somebody just put in the comments, you're the way you describe things just made them come to life for me. So I really appreciate it. I apologize that I'm fuzzy. I'll work on my camera during the week, see if I can make it work better. But it's me. The smudge you see is actually me. So it is time to introduce our Karen Daly. And Karen has been a member of Toastmasters International for over 31 years. She's a current member of the Aesop Fables Toastmaster Club. She's been a member of the Sacramento Storytelling Guild for 11 years and is past president. And Karen loves sharing stories with anyone who listens. She, like me, loves listening to other people's stories. And tonight she has a work experience story that fits our topic. And she's going to talk about I Was an Enforcer. Take it away, Karen.
Thank you, Mark. So good to see all you smiling faces. My morning started with answering phone calls because we always had phone calls from neighbors and associations needing help. And then I started my day in the field. I put on my 11-pound belt. I had a two-way police radio on one hip. On the other hip, I had my big mag flashlight. I had my pepper spray. I had my cell phone. And in the front was my badge. And it went on the front of the belt. And I left for the field. Now, I was the enforcer because I was the supervising field manager for code enforcement for the City of Stockton Police Department. And my role was to take the most difficult spots. So if there were violators that were not listening to my officers, it was my role to go out and let them know they really need to respond to the officer's requests. Otherwise, I will take them to court. Also, I was the one that took all the cases that finally went to court. They became my cases so that I could testify with the judge. And I want to tell you about a couple of cases that were the extreme, but would tell you about my job. But first, I should let you know that I had guns, rifles, knives aimed at me. I was stalked 4 months until the police were able to track down the number and caught him slashing my tires. And yet I love my job. I was the enforcer. We had this elderly lady who originally started that she was the caregiver for an older couple. When the husband died, the old lady didn't want to be alone, so she asked the caretaker to stay on and live with her. And when she died, she had left the house to her children, but with the idea the old lady could live in the house until she passed away. Well, she was a hoarder. And the hoarding got worse and worse. Till finally the neighbors called us and said, something's got to be done. My officer came back and said, I don't know what we could do with this property. There were over 30 garbage cans throughout the backyard. She had 7 sheds throughout the backyard that were full. But we couldn't do anything because everything was encapsulated until the smell. Yes, the smell. Then I had something to go on. So we took environmental health department with us and we went out and inspected the property, and it was bad. This lady had hoarded so bad that there wasn't any room in the house. So she was using a porta potty outside. Well, we went through all the roles we were, gave her all the citations. She never did anything, which we knew about. And we had her held on a 5150, which is a psych hold for 72 hours. And we went in to do the cleanup. When we started in the backyard, the first several garbage cans just had a bunch of clothes. And I said, just toss them, just toss them. But as we started to get back to the garbage cans that were further back in the yard. Wait a minute, this is heavy. We can't move this. So we opened it and it tipped over. And remember what I told you? She had used a porta potty. Well, she had no problem with Tinkle. That's why her grass was dead in the back. But she had preserved all her poop, no other way to say it, in these garbage cans. We had to call a septic tank company to come out and clean the garbage cans out before we could throw away the garbage cans. In 72 hours, and we worked the first day only from 8 to 5. The next 2 days we worked at 10 o'clock in the evening. We still did not get that whole property done in 72 hours when she returned. A few years later, when I was working in another department, I got a call from the new code enforcement supervisor saying, "Do you remember?" And I said, yes, they were going back to court for the same thing. My second most interesting case, and Deborah probably remembers this one, is I was training a new young code enforcement officer. And when you always go up and you knock on the door and you always try to be polite and say, you know, we're getting complaints from the neighbors and we're here to inspect the property to see if we can confirm if they have a violation or not. Well, the call that we had received from the neighbors were rats. They saw lots of rats around the house, but now they were in the neighbors. And how he discovered it, he went out he had to fix his water heater that was in one of those outside closets. And when he opened it, 20 rats ran out. So we went up to the lady's door, knocked on the door, and when she opened the door, my new code enforcement officer almost passed out and she fell back into my arms. The smell was so atrocious. Again, I had to call environmental health to come out. They completely dressed up in a full hazmat suit, went in and inspected and confirmed, yes, there was a rodent problem. Again, we had the lady put on a hold, 5150 hold, while we contacted the owner. He gave us permission just to go in and take care of the situation. The first day we had an exterminator out there, he caught 10,000 rats. The next day he caught another 10,000. By the third day, he was down to 7,000. We literally had to take the walls apart. When we pulled up the bathtub, there was a whole nest of baby rats underneath the bathtub. When we finally got to talk to the little lady, she said she started with one pair of rats and she had them both in the cage. But they were so cute together that she let them open the cages so they could get together. And when she said she got too many rats, she would just buy a big thing of dog food, throw it on the floor, zip it open, and they would eat and duplicate and duplicate. After we totally tore this was a duplex, and the old man next door said he had had trouble with his wiring and never put it together that it was the rats chewing on the wires. By the time we did the final numbers after clearing as many of the rats we could, and we knew we didn't get it. The exterminator said he probably didn't get them all. We had collected 43,000 rats. Not all from this house, because now remember, I told you the neighbors started complaining. We had to go in and have exterminator go to the 3 different houses on either side to help clear out their rat situation. So those are 2 of the most unusual cases I had as an enforcer. But I loved my job. I really felt that I was helping our communities in clearing out nuisances. We abated old cars. We cleaned up and painted over the tagging that the gangs did all over town. And I felt we made a difference in our community. Back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Karen. My gosh, what an unforgettable story. I don't ever think I'll get those 43,000 rats. I don't think I can ever get that picture out of my head. Thank you. That was fascinating. Talk about an unusual, occupation. Wow. I had no idea that code enforcers would have those kind of stories. It would be that dramatic and that's spectacular. So thank you for sharing. Up next, we have Sir Lawrence. We love to call him. His name is Larry, but we call him Sir Lawrence because he is a real hardworking guy. He does a lot for the Sacramento Guild. He has been storytelling for a long time. He's one of the first people I met at the Sacramento Guild. I love hearing him tell. And Sir Lawrence is visually impaired, also known as blind. And so we won't be able to see his face. He's here by phone. We'll be able to hear him tell his story. And just last Wednesday on St. Patty's Day, he was asked to give a lesson, to teach storytelling to the Society of the Blind. And that he did a half-an-hour phone workshop, and he even had the caretakers telling their stories during that. And it was not such a big success that he's got 2 more requests from different groups to do his storytelling workshop. So Larry's a lot of fun. So the title of his story is Richard, and I give you, oh, by the way, I said that you won't be able to see his picture because he can't see the screen to do that. He's on the phone. So when Larry's telling, I want you to realize that I know him, and he's very tall, he's very dark, he's very handsome, just breathtakingly handsome, and young. So Larry, take it away.
I'm speechless. Your nose is getting longer, I can tell, and I'm blind. So anyway, the story is Richard. Richard, at a very young age, loved to tap. Tap dancing was his thing. And he wanted to be the next Fred Astaire. For those who maybe might not know who Fred Astaire was, but he was quite a famous tap dancer in the early 20th century. But Richard had dreams of being the next Fred Astaire. His mother said, well, to be a well-rounded entertainer, you also needed to take some acting lessons, some acrobatics, and be real rounded in this field. So Richard did his thing, tap dancing. He did some acrobatics, and he was able to, at age 8, tap dance up and down the staircase at the St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco, along with some live music produced by the Sacramento American Legion Band. This was in 1952. Later on, at age 12, he was introduced to ballet by the director of the Barber Bridge Studio, who also was a director of a play at the old Eaglet Theater on 8th Street, Peter Rabbit. And Richard was Peter Rabbit himself, but he fell in love with Barbara Briggs and was willing to go into ballet. He was teased at school, called Twinkle Toes, but he thrived. He could do leaps and dances that a lot of men were not able to do. Barbara Briggs was trained with the Royal Ballet technique, and when Richard was 15, he had the opportunity to audition for the Royal Ballet, who was coming through San Francisco. So he and several other dancers came down, and Richard got a certificate of achievement to go to Banff, Canada, to attend the Royal Ballet Dance of Arts in Banff for one summer. Then he was so well liked there that they offered him a scholarship, full paid, to go to England to dance for 1 year at the Royal Ballet School in London, England, at age 16. His parents were concerned about his education because he was still in high school. But the counselor at McClatchy High School said, if you are really serious about this career, and it was unusual for a man to be in this career, because even in America, there was no ballet company that was year-round, New York or San Francisco. So here was an opportunity to go to Europe at age 16. And so with the blessing of the counselor and his parents, he took off for London and was the very first American to dance with the prima ballerina of the Royal Ballet, and Margot Fonteyn in Covent Gardens. He also had the opportunity, and took it, to develop a tap dance routine with several other students to celebrate the birthday of the Queen of England. Well, at the end of the year, he was even asked to give up his American citizenship so that he could become an English citizenship, because the Royal Ballet did not allow foreigners to come to their ballet company. He refused. And so they offered him an opportunity to go to Stuttgart, Germany, where previously, the year before, a director from the Royal Ballet had gone over to help the struggling opera ballet company to become an international known ballet. As still a teenager, Richard was the understudy of the lead dancer, Ray Barra. And during this time, the Stuttgart, Germany ballet company was asked to go over to East Germany as the first time ever cultural exchange since the war. Because some of the ballet members of the Stuttgart had escaped from East Germany, they could not come. But most of the company did go, including Richard. Even though Richard was an American citizen, it took them a while to get through the Iron Curtain to perform in East Germany. They performed the full-length ballet, Romeo and Juliet. And at the end of the play, of the ballet, the audience stood up and gave them a 45-minute ovation. In turn, the company on stage gave them a 45-minute ovation. And then they broke down and cried and had dinner together, because it was the first exchange ever since World War II. Later on, Richard became the lead dancer of the Stuttgart Ballet Company because Ray Barra broke his back and had to retire. Richard danced until past 50, which was very unusual. He danced with his company in all over the world, in Russia, in front of the Shah in Iran, in Japan, South America, all across America. He also performed here in Sacramento in 1971. One performance at the Memorial Auditorium. Richard lived in Brazil and started his own company there in Rio, and was known on the internet as the Prince of Ballet, because he was very rare and able to leap so high that he could turn around 3 times before coming down. Rudolf Nureyev introduced him as the next Nureyev, and he was well known for his drama, his leaping ability, and his skills as a actor. And he also knew 5 different languages. He painted, he made cartoons, he wrote 50-page letters, but very, very humble. He traveled and enjoyed this rich life. And I'm really proud to know that he is my older brother. His name was Richard Craig Gunn, Cragun. My name is Crayson because I changed my name. But Richard, you can look up on the internet and see full-length ballets if you look up his name and look his website. And I'm proud to know and let you share that a very unusual career of dancing and leaving home at a young age, knowing that it was a risk that he took and loved it every bit. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Sir Lawrence. And boy, everybody on the screen, by the way, Larry, you had 18 members of your audience. We are 19 on the screen right now. And every one of us
right.
put their hands up and gave you a loud applause. And
Hey, Larry. Woo!
Good job, Larry.
Great job, Larry.
Yeah.
Great story.
Good job.
let Larry hear anything you have to say.
I had a sneak preview of the story a couple of days ago, and I looked it up on the internet, and it's a fascinating story. So Larry Crayson and the Richard Craygun.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Because my wife had a son, we combined our 2 names. I chopped off the gun and added the son.
Another great story, Larry.
Thank you. And thank you for letting me share that story, because I haven't told it for a long time.
Well, we really enjoyed it, Larry, and I enjoyed hearing it the second time. Larry and I do phone chats from time to time, and I was privileged to have a sneak preview of that one. My clock says we've got about 2 or 3 minutes left until 8:30. I don't know if it's time to wrap it up, or Andrew is our technical guy. Do we want to let people still tell stories, or what do you want to do, Andy?
Well, I think I think we can, I mean, even though it's a chat about anything in particular, that'd be fine. But I think we're probably done selling stories. Unless you have one you want to tell, Mark.
Well, I've got one that's just about 2 minutes. It's too short, but it'll fit now, about my grandfather, my mother's father. His name was Jess Wilson, lived in northern Idaho, and he was a rural mail carrier. And I still have his little lapel pin that I'm very proud of that says rural mail carrier, although I don't have many occasions to wear it. But he was, when they settled the farming country, everybody got a section of land, which is 360 acres. And if you had a community where everybody had a farmhouse on their 360 acres, those farmhouses were just about a mile apart in between them. And so people didn't walk the mail route before they had cars. They used horse and wagon. So he had a team of horses and a small wagon. And he reminds me of that saying that we've all heard: neither rain nor sleet nor etc. will keep him from his appointed rounds. Well, he was that guy they were talking about year round. He made and the mail was so important to people back then. It was, they barely had radio if they had electricity. So the mail was everything. And I remember the Montgomery Ward's catalog. Oh my goodness, when that big catalog arrived at the house, that was such a deal. And it also meant that we could use last year's catalog out in the privy, so we had some paper. So that was a big deal. Mail was everything. And he had his team of horses and he had his wagon during most of the year. But when it snowed, well, then what are you going to do? The wagon won't stay on the road. So he took the wheels off and he put skids like a sled. So when you envision sleigh riding at Christmas time, well, that's what he looked like with his team of horses and his sled wagon, delivering all year round. My grandpa Jess, the rural mail carrier. Thanks.
All right. Good
job.
story.
Good job.
Hey, we have a good month here, and tell your friends, tell your neighbors that we'll be here every month, the third Saturday at 7 p.m. You're welcome to tune in at 6:45 and check your video and audio or chat or ask questions. So thank you, everyone.
I have a quick announcement, Mark.
Please.
Today is World Storytelling Day.
It is.
Oh.
Yeah, a great day, and look, we have some great stories here. And I want to make just one comment for some of the tellers. When you're telling your story and you're looking at yourself on the screen, you're not looking at us. You have to look at wherever the lens is on your camera, and it's usually the very top of your computer. There's a little dot, so you have to look at that, because if you look at the screen, you're kind of looking down, and you're not really looking at us. So just a tip. I saw a couple people do that. So
Ed,
I forget that
about
all the time.
next month.
What's that?
We want to tell about next month, what we're
Oh,
doing
yeah.
for our program next month.
Okay, so next month is our annual Liars Contest. And we have a core of liars. We have 8 liars that are going to tell up to a 7-minute story. And I can't remember, Karen, you can tell me this. At 7 minutes, does it end, or you have like that 7th minute, you've got to be done by the end of it?
30 seconds.
7:30, okay.
Seconds to
All right.
close it.
Yeah, so I think a couple of you are on there for telling stories, so you'll be getting the judging criteria. We're going to send it around to you so you know what the judges are going to do, but we give cash prizes. We give first place is worth $100, second place is worth $50, excuse me, $50, and third place is a membership in our organization. In an organization which is worth $15, or maybe $1,500. I can't remember. So we've got our 8 tellers. So we're looking at. I know Eric, was on here. He's going to be a teller, and so we're looking forward to this again. And we have 5 judges. I know Mark is a judge, Angela's a judge,
Not
Karen's
supposed
a
to
judge.
tell who the judges are, silly.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's okay. That's okay.
We have
You
5
can't bribe the
anonymous
judges.
All right.
Oh,
So
yeah?
it's going to be it'll be a great event. We've got some people from out of state that are going to be telling, and some of our local people. So it's going to be a good group.
All right, I'll be here next month.
That's
feel free to
April.
tell your friends.
Is that April
17th.
17th? Yeah.
17.
You can all forward Joyce will send out an email about it and everything about it. And you can always forward that and email it to your friends and relatives. One of the neat things about Zoom is that anybody anywhere in the world can stop by. So I think that wraps us up for this evening, for this month. And thank you again, all. And we look forward to seeing you next month.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Well done.
Thank you for hosting, Mark.
You're welcome. My
Mark.
All right,
pleasure.
Thank you for
thank you.
inviting me, Andrew. It was really
Good to see
great.
you, Vicky, John, my buddy.
Thanks,
Rick.
Andrew. Hey, great
Guys,
stories. I enjoyed it.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have some new faces here, so that's nice to see that.
Yeah.
Thanks for the invite, Andy.
All right. See you all later. Thank you. Hey,
Bye,
bubbleoffer21@gmail.com if you're interested in the book that I wrote. It'll be coming out on Amazon soon. So I'll let you know about it. And Linda,
Great
I've got
book.
one for you already.
Great
You
book.
got one for me too, right?
Yeah, I got one for you, Vicky.
Okay.
And you know, this is recorded, right?
Yeah, oh, yes, it is.
So people can go to the Storytelling Association of California
Yeah.
and just click at YouTube and you will see this event in a couple of days. Be
Is that
posted
where
up
we
there.
can find it? Is
Yeah.
that where we see it? This?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody can see it if they want to go. They won't
Oh,
see me because I
wonderful.
forgot to record myself. So,
Oh, darn.
yeah. Oh, well.
Don't forget next time.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Mark. Good job hosting. Great
Oh,
job.
thank you, Linda.
Yeah,
That was
great
my
job,
pleasure.
Mark.
And for people that are new on here, you can request to tell a story at any of our events except for the April 7th, the next one with the Liars Contest, because we have spots. You can just say, hey, I've got a story. And we have themes like you saw here, but you don't even have to tell a story about the theme. If you've got a story you're working on, you can just go, I want to tell that story. And you'll get the email about it. And then you just contact whoever the host is. Tell them you want to share a story.
Thank you.
All right,
Oh,
guys.
good night.
Signing out.
All right. Good night, everyone.
See you all later. Good to see you.
Later, Andy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.